Hey, Kevin. Does anybody know the markdown shortcut to strike through content?
Uh, Tilda.
Might be
Before and
two
after?
tildes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I didn't want to edit that part of it. There we go.
And I just dropped the link to the milestone.
Sweet.
Thank you. Hey, good morning.
Hey,
Good
Lynn.
morning.
Wow, someone have really loud typing.
Oh, sorry, that's me. I will mute.
No worries.
What keycaps do you have?
That's
Oh,
how
I
you
don't
are so
remember.
productive.
It's the loud typing. It works twice as hard. I think they're the brown ones. Yeah, I'm looking at them.
The brown ones are usually quiet, but
I also have a Moonlander keyboard, so
oh, I have an Ergodox.
I will say an ergonomic keyboard was one of the best investments I've had.
Oh God, 100%. Like after I switched, my RSI pretty much disappeared. That with being able to get the right height.
Okay.
Okay, let me know when I should start.
Yeah, let's give everybody probably like 2 more minutes. I did update the
Yep.
issue, Lynn, with oh, the tildes didn't work. Okay, Bob, I'm gonna have to have you fix it because I'm incapable of rendering Markdown correctly.
One sec.
As a
Milestones.
technologist, I feel like I struggle more with tech and failing at it than I probably should.
Well, because technology keeps changing.
It keeps changing. I'm getting too old to keep up with this stuff. All right. So yeah, the first item on the agenda is just going to be an async update after the fact, and then so we've got the project discussion, and then we have the 2025 roadmap and milestones planning. So kind of like that backlog stuff. So, Lynn, we'll give it like another minute, and then you can get started.
Good, I'll start sharing my screen then.
Okay, give me. There's a. There we go. You had extra tilde in parenthesis in there, so it was from I think it was the end of the KubeCon. Anyway, if you refresh it, it should be accurate now.
With the link
Oh, I was just regarding the Markdown update
to the roadmap. Oh,
for the first agenda item that was on there. Don't worry about it. It was me and Emily talking about stuff.
okay. By the way, do we have a meeting next week? I assume no.
No,
Okay, good. So our next meeting would be the first week of January, I guess.
I think it's actually going to be the
The
because
7th.
it should be because it's the 31st, so that we wouldn't have one. So yeah, it'd be the 7th. So, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because it's New Year Eve. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, I guess I will get started, Emily or Bob.
It
All
starts recording
right.
automatically. So
All right, perfect. Hey, everybody, welcome to today's TOC meeting. As you probably noticed, we've been tracking TOC agenda in GitHub. So yeah, I love GitHub. By the way, GitHub was down this morning. I don't know if you guys noticed, but it come back in time for our TOC meeting. So that's great. Linux Foundation, antitrust policy. I think everybody already familiar with that. So I would ask you guys to comply with this for this meeting. And I believe I checked the open votes this morning. I don't believe I see anything, so there's no outstanding votes out there. But I believe Karina, I think you recently helped us close out the vote for CubeFS. So thank you, Kevin, for your great work putting out CubeFS out there. I reviewed the DD. It was inspiring. I was actually working on my DD for Intuitive, so I was referring to that. I believe, Ricardo, you also have Open Ute out for public review, if I'm not mistaken. So hopefully we'll get that voted out soon. With that, I would like to run through the agenda and come back to the project moving level and TOC working board, if that's okay with everybody. Yes. All right. All right, so it looks like the first agenda is a sync update, so we will go ahead and skip that. And the second agenda is Kubernetes Steering Committee have sent us a request. I'm going to bring that up for project naming convention to reduce confusing and avoid conflict. So if you recall, Benjamin represented the Kubernetes Steering Committee on November 20th. And he requested that project coming into CNCF should not be using K8s, Kube, or Kubernetes in their name because they want to reserve the name for the projects within the Kubernetes organization, like sub-projects within Kubernetes. So those projects would be more like official Kubernetes project with other project outside of Kubernetes, they would try to reserve the name. And one of the caveat is they want to have this only for newly donated projects because I think they understand it's too much hassle to ask many of our existing projects to change. So if you go back to CNCF landscape, you will see probably at least 20, 30 projects are using Cube right now. So that's going to be a lot of projects to be changed. So the request is only for newly donated projects. So I'm going to park here and get everybody's thoughts on this request. Is it reasonable? Does this mean any other projects that follow the convention not using K8 as Cube or Kubernetes is going to be allowed and endorsed by CNCF. And the other comment I want to, just so everyone knows, I believe Chris mentioned that K8s and Kubernetes, CNCF already own the trademark for that. So technically, we are not allowing K8s or Kubernetes even before this request. So the new request is really for the Kube substring in the project name. So I'm going to pause here, see if anybody wants to weigh in on their thoughts. Sorry, I haven't figured out how to see the hands, so feel free. Go ahead.
Just a quick question. I think we have actually allowed in sandbox projects with K8s.
Yes, that's a good question. We did. There is only one project, which when I talked to Chris, and I believe we want to ask that project to change the name because it uses K8s. So this project, what you're referring to, is Case GPT. Right. Is that right, Alex? Yes. So yeah, I believe. I don't know if Chris is on the call, but he basically mentioned to me, this is the one they shouldn't be allowed, and we should ask them to change the name because they infringed the Kubernetes trademark name. Emily, I think I saw you had a hand.
I did. So I wanted to make sure that we're very clear on what we want to do. Um, naming things in engineering is always difficult. We will never satisfy everyone, and everyone loves to have that little bit of themselves kind of like presented with the project. It's the legacy of a lot of the work that we do in open source is picking the names of these things that will live forever, hopefully, which is certainly understandable. And I think it's speaks a lot to the impact that Kubernetes has had on the ecosystem that we do have so many projects applying that want to take part of its namesake for themselves. Setting aside the trademark issues, because those, if it's trademarked, obviously it's being held by the CNCF and we don't want to have projects applying that infringe on that. We do also already have a lot of projects that use names like Cube within their titling, but they're not necessarily associated with the Kubernetes project. And we're not going to force any of them to change their names. I don't think that's realistic and a good use of anybody's time in open source. However, we can certainly provide projects that are seeking to apply with guidance that reduces the confusion adopters, contributors, and anybody really looking at the CNCF landscape might have around whether or not a project is part of Kubernetes, performs a particular feature or function associated with Kubernetes, or if it's not at all related, or if it's similar enough. And that's really the point, is we want to avoid any confusion and we want to avoid any conflicts that might arise when contributors and adopters are looking at our ecosystem. So for me, I think it makes sense that we would provide guidance and provide recommendations around things that can reduce that level of confusion, recommending or advising that Cube is preferred for Kubernetes projects within their ecosystem, and that projects that are seeking to apply to join CNCF with Cube in their name might first go to the Kubernetes ecosystem, see whether or not it makes sense for them to join, if they have the contributors and the momentum to continue to maintain those projects within Kubernetes or not. And if not, and not fully or tightly coupled with Kubernetes, perhaps exploring other options to reduce that confusion. So that's kind of all I wanted to put out there, is I don't think that the TOC is in a position to dictate naming conventions for projects, but we can certainly advise and recommend in a way that reduces confusion for people within our ecosystem.
Yeah, that's a really good comment. Bob.
One thing I want to like explicitly comment about the project that sort of caused this is Kube Gateway, and there is the Kubernetes Gateway API, Kube Gateway or Kate's Gateway API. There's a bunch of different terms for referring to it, and that's really, what kind of caused the reaction. And going back to what Emily said with like confusion of if it's going to be related to the project or something like that. So I just want to like provide the little bit of like additional context of there was something that was already pre-existing here that was incredibly similar to it, and that's kind of what prompted it. Other thing besides naming itself is, I'd say, to avoid any sort of similar API, like if they're going to have like a CRD. There was at one point where some external projects were actually using the Kates.io URI in their CRD for their project, and that should definitely be reserved for just Kubernetes itself. Things like that. So I'm a big +1 on just general guidance.
Okay, I think this makes a lot of sense. So should we craft a message as a next step? Should we craft a message and reply to the CNCF TOC mailing list? Hey, the guidance from the TOC, hey, we recommend, so projects should never use K8s and Kubernetes substring in the project names. And we also recommend project not use Cube in the substring to avoid potential confusion. If project do use Cube in the substring, we're going to send the project to the Kubernetes community to evaluate first. Something like that to make sure it didn't generate a confusion, if I'm captured correctly. Emily, go ahead.
I think generally that process is fine, but let's write it down and send it over to Kate's steering first, so that they have the opportunity to provide initial feedback since they're the ones that initiated the request. And then based off of their feedback, once it's incorporated, we can open it up to the community for public comment before we make those changes, in Sandbox and on the TOC repo. But I think right now we're still in the discussion point of, does this make sense? What's the problem that we're actually trying to solve? How do we better integrate with Kubernetes community to ensure that they're receiving contributors and projects that are interested and going to be healthfully maintained while striking a balance with the remainder of the cloud native ecosystem?
That makes a lot of sense. Does anyone else have any thoughts on this? Or we just need to ask for a volunteer if anybody interested to take this out?
I'm not volunteering, but I did want to point out the note in chat about this isn't just about Kubernetes either. It applies to other projects as well. So generally making sure that we don't have any conflict or confusion with any projects in the ecosystem. Kubernetes just happens to be the one that made the request initially.
Yeah, I think for other projects, it's a little bit different. I think everybody understand not using the project in the name. Kubernetes is a little bit special because we're expanding it besides K8s and Kubernetes, which is the trademark for Kubernetes, right? We're extending it to Kube now. But other project, you don't have the extension beyond the basic name because they are not popular enough that people building so many ecosystem around it. But I agree with the point about not use the other projects in the name as well. That's been trademarked. All right, would anybody be interested to kind of write something based on the summary here and socialize with the Kubernetes steering committee? We could potentially ask Dims to send the summary. I think he's very well connected to the Kubernetes steering committee.
Lynn, I think we can take that action back to the private TOC and request Dims facilitate that discussion.
Yeah, I think it would be good. The other thing I do want to say is once we formalize, endorse the request, I would say as somebody also representing a project, I would want to say, hopefully, this is sought out, right? If project ends up using other names, hopefully that would be allowed. If Kubernetes decide these are the reserved name that's so useful for them, we'll honor that. But if the project come out to think about other ways to in their project name, without using any of these substrings, I assume that would be okay, reasonably okay. Is that a fair statement? Alex?
It's CNCF owns the trademarks for all of these things, and the CNCF is onboarding these projects. I think the bit I'm missing is how did we get to this place? Sort of, we should like we seem to have been gotten to a place where we're causing our own trademark infringements with ourselves. So it feels like there's a step missing in the process during the onboarding. Projects shouldn't be allowed to be on board if they're conflicting trademarks with ourselves, surely.
Are you referring to the case GPT project or something?
Kate's or Cube or anything, to be honest, what's stopping what's stopping any project from using the trademark of any other project. You know what I mean? Like Kate's is a very obvious one, but sort of shouldn't we just be doing a quick string check against the listed trademarks which are in GitHub and not let them in
Yeah,
if they fail it?
one of the follow-up action items discussed previously is updating the sandbox template, um, or like because we'll also need to update we'll update the templates essentially with the check the trademark guidance, because we also
Yeah.
have to update them where the trademark must be migrated first before we can proceed with accepting any project.
That's part of the new Series LLC documents we have now,
Yeah.
and it's kind of a thing that's been slowing a little bit of the sandbox onboarding for the August and October projects. We're not using the existing CNCF trademark PDFs anymore. We're using a separate document, and until that document is completed, its contribution and the trademarks, we can't activate them in PCC, so they're not active yet. So it is kind of the carrot we're putting in front of projects now that legal is requiring us to do.
Yeah,
But yeah,
thank you
that's
so
part
much
of
for
why it's
sending this. No, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no problem. Sorry, Lynn.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
thank you
and
so much,
anyway, yeah.
Daniel, for sending this link. It's so helpful, actually, because a lot of people didn't know. I mean, people know Kubernetes is trademark, but K8s, we approve K8s GPTs, and not everybody knows that's part of the trademark. So, yeah.
That's right. So there's about 80 in here, and we know that there's some that probably don't show up on here. This is kept fairly up to date, but there are some projects that are kind of in this state of they've never quite finished onboarding, or they never had a trademark anyway. So those are kind of some things that we're trying to operationally fix. So we're working through that as well as part of this Series LLC change that we're doing. And there's a GitHub issue I opened in the foundation repo that kind of tracks this work. So let me share that. But I think the short answer is why, it happened in the past. I think that we grew so fast that it probably was just something that came through the cracks, as we respond to new projects coming on board.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So Alex, to your point, it sounds like in the project onboarding guide to Sandbox, or if project is donated directly to incubation, we need to be very clear about where to find the trademark so they can be sure not to use this along with the guideline specific for the Kubernetes community.
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so Chip, you're asking about Kubernetes GPT, K8s GPT actually violate. I think it would, right? Because it is trademarked. Okay, just making sure. And Daniel, you send out the issue.
Yeah, and that in
Awesome,
turn
that's
links to
great.
the one Chris opened up as well, particularly around this issue. So if it's kind of linked from the bottom there, yeah, 894 is something he originally opened up, so I'm tracking the work in Foundation.
That's great. Thank you so much for these references. Is there anything else we should discuss on this topic, or should we move to the next topic? All right, let's moving on for 2025 roadmap and milestone planning. Emily, should I pass to you to start on this?
Yeah, so let me talk a little bit about this. So for those of you that don't know, the TOC chair and vice chair meet with CNCF staff every week before the TOC meeting. And what we do is we do the backlog of the backlog grooming, meaning we go through everything that's in our repo, in our Slack messages, in email messages to try to make sure that we are not dropping the ball on any activities that the TOC has said they wanted to pursue, or that we are not forgetting about any actions we took from the tags and community members and projects. And one of the things that we have found over the course of the past several months is we have a lot of initiatives and things that we are working on and trying to improve for the TOC and for our projects and our ecosystem, but we haven't actually sat down and had like a good roadmap planning effort for the TOC. We're doing a lot of things. We have a lot of moving pieces. They're impacting projects, and it's starting to get difficult to keep track of everything that we want to do. And does it make sense to still do it as changes occur? So what I wanted to do and kind of bring up here with the TOC and hopefully start this practice of developing a roadmap for the TOC on what it is that we are currently working towards, problems that we're trying to solve so that we can follow them through to completion. A good example of this is this past year, we went through a major effort with the tags to create GTRs and DTRs in an effort to both help projects understand kind of the expectations as they move levels, but also set them up for success and give the tags more exposure to those projects and vice versa about what's going on, what are some of the best practice recommendations in a given domain. And that's been fabulous. But we've also missed some of the final actions that should have come out of that, such as making sure that GTR and DTR has been reflected within the current TOC documentation on our repo, as well as providing that guidance more broadly out to project maintainers so that they're aware that this exists, and that there's a more formal mechanism, and kind of give them insights into how other projects have found that process. So between GTRs, that's one of the areas. Graduated Plus was a recent item that came out of KubeCon discussions with the Technical Advisory Board, and we do have some clarity that we need to add to the issue, but that's something that we should be discussing and exploring in 2025 with our tab counterparts. And there's a lot of these kinds of things. So I wanted to, I had asked Bob to put together the 2025 roadmap milestone so that we could go through our current backlog of issues and figure out what should the TOC be accomplishing as an enhancement for 2025 for projects and tags. We do have some items that we've already committed to. Kind of the tag restructure that we already have an open issue on should probably be added here so that we can ensure that that is brought to closure in the early part of the year. And then the shadow role is another one. We wanted to get that one implemented, but there's a couple of other items that we're looking to improve. So that was what I thought would be a good use of our backlog grooming time, is which of these items are 2025 initiatives so that we can make sure that they get complete, and which ones are just normal day-to-day work. See some head nods, that makes sense. Okay. So Lynn, I will turn it over to you. That way we can start going through our backlog and closing out some of these open issues, going through the current project statuses. Over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Emily, for the education on the new board and how it's going to change how we work and operate next year. With that, let's start a fun topic on review and assign projects in moving level backlogs. All right, let's start the ones we are getting close. So I think we mentioned about CubeFS early on. Is there anything remaining for CubeFS?
I would actually probably not do the for the 2025 milestone, I probably wouldn't put the stuff that's moving levels, but focus on the work.
Oh,
Like
yes.
the TOC work would probably be the good tab to work out of.
Yeah, but I thought Emily wants us to start review the moving.
Sorry.
No. Yeah. I understand. So basically, we're
No.
going to do the offline planning, and now we're reviewing the backlog now. Does that make sense, Bob? All right.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to CubeFS, I think it has a lot of vote. Let me double check. Is there anything remaining on this, Kevin? Do you? Okay, the vote passed, yeah. So do we just need to have the PR merged?
Yep. If the vote passed, then it's merge the PR and need to just
Okay.
like kick off the other processes.
All right, so Bob, looks like it's assigned to you.
Yeah.
So I think you got it. You've been traveling, so all right. Awesome. And let's
So
moving
Just
down
a
to
note there, because we talk about merging the PRs. The other one has already been merged. And this one is
Oh,
still because exactly the in-press coordination. So maybe we might need to change the name of something else, but when you're saying close the PR, I'm just like, don't close that one that's still open. But because we had this discussion before where we have two following the project around. So that's something that we'll have to clean up later, but so that's why I added Bob in as the assignee. And whether Kevin needs to be taken off now, that's just something that, you know, we can discuss in the background. But for everybody else, you'll see the two issues kind of following along. But Bob is gonna, I think you mentioned in chat that the trying to do the parent-child issues. So investigating that, so it's not as confusing. All right. Thanks,
all
Lynn.
right, thanks for that clarification, Karina. All right, let's move into the next one. So Ricardo, congratulations for getting this out. Is there anything you want to add?
He's not on the call.
Yeah, I think he is not. All right, I don't see anybody commented on anything, so let's move on. It's in a good spot. Emily, do you want to? give
Yep,
us an
I
update
actually
on this?
just put a comment on there. The project got back to me. They completed their outstanding items ahead of schedule, which is fabulous effort on their part. So I'm now the blocker. I need to go through their changes that they made so that I can update the due diligence, write up and finish up the evaluation of those criteria, as well as like the overall evaluation of the project. And then hopefully it should be open for internal TOC discussion by January, and then maybe public comment shortly thereafter. But I do have time set aside this week to focus on that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emily. And Dragonfly, Karina, do you want to give us a quick update?
Dragonfly is still on hold pending their joint security assessment. So that one's still on hold.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you. All right. I think Ricardo is not here. So let's see. Meta 3, if there's anything. All right. I guess he's just starting to pick up this one. And I'll give an update on Intuitu. Unfortunately, this is taking way longer than I had hoped because the DD keep discover new issues. So finally, because the project wasn't very responsive, this is partly my fault for picking up a project, not being super responsive because not knowing that. So I ends up actually writing up a bunch of issues in the Intuitive repo, just making sure the conversation I had with the project on Slack are actually tracked in GitHub. So I'm just going to wait for them to resolve these issues. Once they are resolved, hopefully in January, I should be able to submit a PR for the DD, which I have it prepared, and all the interviews are already finished. So it's just holding up these issues from the project. All right. Does anyone have any questions for Intuitive? No, all right, let's moving on to the next. Cross-playing, Karina, how are
Hey.
things?
So kicking off with the cross-plane community this week, just in time for the holidays. So I will add in notes after we have our conversation to the issue.
Awesome. Thank you so much for picking up this one. I think that's all the assignments. So I guess if I'll probably start picking up another one after the new year. So if anybody have bandwidth and it's not, and your term will continue after January, I actually don't know if we have any other people whose term is going to continue. Maybe Dims. It would be good to pick up something. And Dims is not here. Um, all right. Anything else we should discuss on this board before we move to the next topic?
Yeah.
Emily. Yes.
So TOC members, there is a PR on our repo. I posted it in our channel around updating the TOC due diligence guide with recent changes that we've discussed, both in Slack and over the course of the year. So things like doing the triage of applications in the backlog so that when we go to pick up a project for assignment, we know it's actually ready. They've done everything that they needed to do. They've met the criteria at the surface level, not necessarily in depth from a content perspective. So that PR is looking to kind of formalize that, and it sets the expectation that all TOC members are doing that level of backlog grooming and triage. We've also, as part of that, on the project application board, applications to move levels board, there is a new column, and then there is a ready for assignment column. So projects, when they apply to move levels, whenever they open that issue, it will automatically get added to the bottom of the new column. When a TOC member performs a triage of a project and found them to have satisfactorily met the initial criteria, so that lightweight, we should be moving it over to ready for assignment, because it lets us know that somebody's already looked at it, they've done the criteria as we would expect them to be ready for us to pick up and start doing the evaluation. It makes it a little bit easier for TOC members to know who's been looked at, who hasn't, who's ready, who's not. It should help us streamline that a little bit more. Also, if in the course of doing that triage, we find a project that did apply, but is missing a lot of criteria, and when I say missing a lot, as in they haven't started a self-assessment, or they don't have a roadmap in some cases, go ahead and comment on the issue with the items that are outstanding and missing that don't meet the criteria, and close it. And the reason for this is we have been finding, and I mentioned this to the tag leads, we've been finding projects applying just to get in line in the hopes that we will eventually pick them up and they will have eventually gotten all those things done. But things being what they are, focused on features and bug fixes, not everybody completes it by the time that we get around. So this is about ensuring that the TOC backlog is an accurate reflection of project readiness to move levels, so that the TOC is spending less time going and picking a project and finding it's not ready and then putting it back, and then finding another project that's not ready and putting it back, which takes up our time. So we want to be a little bit more efficient. So unfortunately, it means project applications are going to be closed if they are not actually ready, but I think that's in everybody's best interest so that we're being more efficient with the time and the resources that are available to the TOC. So if everyone could take a look and provide comments and feedback, and anybody on this call or listening to the YouTube recording, within a 2-week window, obviously we would like to have your comments and feedback on that as well, because we want to make sure that this makes sense and is efficient for everyone involved.
Yeah, I have to say, I really love this. As a TOC member, I think I've done 3 projects this year, and 2 of the projects I've done are not ready. And one of the projects I have to send back. The other project have been back and forth, took so long until even I completed all the adapter interviews. So I am so appreciate that we have this extra column so we can be way more efficient. And Emily, if I heard you correct, I think you said if the project is not ready, we're going to close the issue. So they'll be back in the queue. So they should be demotivated to submit in the future just for the purpose of getting back in the queue, right?
Yeah, we want them to actually be ready when they apply. We know that the queue is long, and we've done a, I feel like we've done a decent job actually reducing it and trying to streamline things,
Yes.
so that we're not taking as much time and we're being more communicative about where things are at, what it is that we're doing, where we're waiting, where some of the holdups in the process are. But if a project isn't ready, we're going to close the issue. When they are ready, they can reapply, they can link to the closed issue. They are welcome to reuse as much of the content from the previous one that is still relevant and up to date. And hopefully it just gets us in a better habit of doing the right thing the first time so that everybody is ready when the cycles actually free up so that we can keep this train moving.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Does anyone else have any comments or questions on this? Please and review Emily's PR offline. I send it on the chat as well. All right, I'm not seeing any hands. Should we move on to the TOC working board? Right, let's do that. All right. Should we start with the in progress? Daniel, is there anything you want to update us on this annual review for Sandbox?
Let's see.
No,
Bob may
when-
have a better update on this one.
so, well, Emily,
Emily.
you want to cover it? Or do you want me to cover it?
I thought
I
we're
can-
not doing this.
Yeah, I can cover it. So that particular issue came out of when we were going through the moving levels process reevaluation, and in particular around Sandbox annual reviews, which was a precursor to the moving levels. We had leveraged that effort to develop areas of automation. Those areas of automation were turned over to LFX Insights and the DevStats team so that they can incorporate them into the development activities that they were already pursuing. So this issue has been kept open really just to get status updates. And I think my question for the TOC is, does this make sense for us to continue to remain open, knowing that the LFX team is well aware of what we've asked of them and is already tracking this work through to completion?
I just say close it. You're way confusing. Yeah.
Okay, I think that makes sense. So what we'll do is,
right.
Lynn, you'll add your comment and let's close it.
Yeah, right. Let's do that. So next time another TOC member facilitates the meeting, they don't have to bring it up. All right. The next one is VS Code Kubernetes tools house. Chris opened this.
That's right. And yeah, I've been meeting with Ralph Squillace. I always forget how to pronounce his last name. Actually, I saw him in India last week, as well as at WasmCon as part of KubeCon. So he and I've talked through some of the remaining issues here. It's still ongoing. We did check off a few more items, but there's a few things the development team needs to do. So if you click over to the original issue, you may see some of the updates marked there as well. That one, yeah. So let's see if we scroll down the latest comment here.
Trademark?
Trademark
yeah.
was one of them, but let's see what. No, okay. So 6, we checked off
Yeah.
6, and there are 3 tasks left, and yeah, Tatsunet is the key developer. Other developers or the maintainers have moved over. It's only 1. This has also been an odd project. Yeah, I think it's it's kind of a Microsoft. It's still a Microsoft-y thing. That's why it's never fully onboarded, but it's very close now with only those 3 issues left. And now that we've closed on the new agreements, it should be one that we should be able to close out soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for working with them.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. So the next one is tag documentation update. Do we have Reno on the call? Emily.
So Rion has been busy with a lot of other foundations and unfortunately didn't get around to completing this one this year. And given the changes that we have coming up next year for tags, both in kind of like the leadership processes, as well as some other items and the recent nominations that have been submitted to the TOC repo, I don't know that this issue is still up to date enough to keep it open. I think I would be in favor of creating a larger issue just to capture all of the changes that are being made. So they're centrally in a checklist that we can go through and do. I know that many of the tech leads are not reflected in the leadership for tags. So we don't really know who's a tech lead unless we're asking questions of the chairs. So generally, I think we have an overall cleanup activity to bring the existing tag repos into alignment with what they're currently working on and who their current leadership is, as well as incorporating some of the other changes that are currently up for discussion. So I would recommend closing this and creating a stub issue to make sure that this is tracked for 2025 milestone completion.
So the sub issue would be under the other issue you had on tag restructure?
Correct. So
Okay.
I would link this one to the tag restructure and then add the tag restructure to the 2025 milestone. And then
Got
we can
it.
close
All
this
right.
one so we have the historical reference.
You can
Okay,
still
so
close it with this comment and add it to the like reference to
add
the
it
other one too.
later. Yeah, sounds good because I will take it to do. I'll add the reference and create the issue offline because it's going to be a struggle for me to find it without wasting everybody's time. So, all right. The next one, health. Karina, do you have an update for this? Or I don't even know how to pronounce this project name.
Pravega.
Vega,
Thank
hasn't
you.
it hasn't technically been 3 months yet, so I hadn't reached back out to them just yet.
Got it.
So in January,
You know,
reach out.
this one could probably go to the 2025 board as a check-in item.
Awesome. Let's do that. All right. So I added a comment for you, and
If you go,
how
yeah,
do I do
milestone.
that?
A little bit further down. There you go.
This one?
2025 roadmap.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for the update, Karina. And we have a health check of cover schedule, which is open by DIMS. And last comment is August.
This one probably needs to be reviewed again to see where they're
Okay.
at. They had been working
Should I-
on community engagement.
Should I tag DIMS? Would he be the right person? Did he volunteer to follow up? I think so, maybe.
So that comment is also before there were some changes at Broadcom.
Yeah.
So
So
Lynn,
definitely worth checking it up on them again.
Lynn, what I would recommend doing is just dropping a comment on the issue and CCing DIMS and asking for a status update on how the project's health is moving.
Yeah, we've spot.
Awesome. Awesome, thank you. All right, we have the TOC and tag leads meeting at KubeCon.
So this one, I'm actually in the middle of typing a message in the Tag Chairs channel. For edification, the TOC is going to be reviewing all the comments, concerns, and feedback that all of the tags have shared on that issue, as well as privately in discussions with several TOC and CNCF staff members. We'll be working on a proposal that provides a healthy structure for tags to support project contributors in the TOC that incorporates that feedback, allows community members to spin up on a focused area of TOC oversight with completely clearly scoped goals, and allow them to spin back down to return those contributors back to whichever tag or ecosystem or project they came from, formalizes efforts within a tag that require continuance as they contribute to the due diligence process, a structure for tags to have established time-bound focuses to achieve their objectives with interested contributors that doesn't dilute the activities of the tag, and positions the tags for the next decade of cloud native. As part of that proposal, there are additional proposals in the works to formalize tag leadership, tag roles, operations and structure, some of the conversations we've already had, and that Leo from Tag Environmental Sustainability had worked on some initial proposals for, and kind of collecting that feedback on it. So we're hopefully in 2025, we'll have a nice, healthy structure for tags to operate with that, mindful of all of the feedback and insights and experience that you all have shared on that issue. So this one I think we'll need to keep open, but will definitely need to be added to the 2025 roadmap.
Right, that sounds good. So Emily, I don't think I can phrase this any better than you. So I'm going to wait
I will,
till
yeah, when I post it in the Tag Chairs channel, what I'll do is I'll update the issue as well.
That's much appreciated, and I added to the board for you. Thank you so much. All right, the next one, Emily, I think it's owned by you too, about the guideline.
Yeah, this is also on me. Apologies, it's taken a back seat with all of the other ones that I have. So if there is a TOC member that is super interested in operators and would like to take this on, feel free to reassign it to yourself. Otherwise, it's going to be on my lowest priority of TOC activities.
All right, so could be maybe one of our newer members too. Awesome, thank you so much, Emily and Ricardo. I don't think we have Ricardo on. Should we skip this one? Yeah, let's do that. TOC ambassadors. I don't think we have anybody leading on this. So let's skip this one. So this could be another good candidate for a new TOC when they are seated. Oh, we have this ready for assignment populated for a bunch now. That's nice. Should we go through these quickly too, Emily?
It actually looks like we have a ghost of the old title here, so that shouldn't be ready for assignment. We'll need to fix the board. Bob, if you could take a note so that we can fix the TOC work board. The way that the project boards work is we have to add all of the columns, and then we have to filter the views to remove columns that don't apply to that particular view of the board. So these are all clearly assigned. They're just in a different status. So the TOC work board will need to be corrected because we shouldn't also have TOC DD evaluation showing up here.
Okay, that makes so much sense. I was wondering why did it so show up with names? Okay.
Yeah. So the first one, the Health of Piraeus data store, we did get a comment back from them. I do need to follow up, and we should probably have it, probably just make sure that the TOC is on the same page for project activity, because this one is not as active as some of the other projects we see because of the nature of the project. So that's probably worth an internal conversation. But overall, I think they're moving forward in a better direction than they were previously.
That's great to hear. All right, thanks, Emily. Karina, is there anything you want to talk about for this one from Craig? Maybe you haven't had a chance. to look into yet because I don't see much
I-
comments.
Have time this week set aside to go through the ones that are assigned to me and provide updates.
Awesome. That's great. Thank
Honestly,
you.
like now is probably the best time to go through the random assignments just to like close them out or drop a comment before we all lose context in the next couple of weeks.
Right. Yes, totally. Yeah. All right. Update contributor strategy information page for enduring validity. Oh, this is a PR. Do we just need another TOC member to review? Because Emily already reviewed. Awesome. Okay, that sounds good. I'll tag myself. I can take this offline to review. Oh, we also need to have the merge conflict to be resolved, and let me tag him too. Awesome. All right, the work group lead transition, define a process.
I think this might get refactored in with the reboot.
Yeah. And also, I think recently we merged the leadership role document that defines like the election process and everything. So maybe we'll revisit this after the tag and the role restructure. And this is the meeting today. The state of ecosystem, should we close this out now? Because we've collected most of the ecosystems. Yes.
I think it could be closed and referenced in the general sort of refactoring of the tags is just another sort of supporting thing. Karina?
Karina, what's your thoughts?
I tried to start going through and making sure all the tag updates, they're kind of all over the place. They're in some of the tag boards, but not linking back. And I think most of them, because right here, the issues for tracking, it only says that tag security is complete.
Yeah.
So, or closed. For future, it would be helpful if we are using one issue for tracking and we go tag it on and maybe this is something Bob, for the automation, is that it'd be helpful to make sure we really are coming back and tracking them in one location so we're not hunting around everywhere and spending time and cycles trying to find it for review. So thoughts there. But anyway, so for each of these, it'd be great to see them closed out for each of the tag issues, and then close this one out for consistency.
I need to double check, but I think if we add them as sub issues in there, this one would automatically close out once the ones under it would close out. Let me go take a look.
All right, thanks for looking at that. I guess the challenge is we're already at the end of the year, so if they're not closed, I don't know if we're going to enact the tag any further for this year's because it's like past due.
I would reassign. if Emily's okay with it, reassign it to Bob just to investigate.
All right, let's
Process.
do that.
It
And
if you refresh the board, it should they should start appearing there as subtasks.
yes, I saw it right here, which is pretty amazing. So does that mean when the subtask closes, the main issue would be automatically? I guess somebody still manually need to close it.
I believe it will automatically close once all of them are. I have to double check, but
Awesome.
I think they will.
Yeah, but it looks promising because it says 0 of 3. That's great. Thank you. All right, great idea, Karina, on that. Karina, I think you own this one, the Operation DD templates.
So this goes back to what Emily was referring to on the roadmap. So this is on my list this
Okay.
week, well, since it's quiet time.
All right, so should I put it on the roadmap for you? Awesome, thank you, Karina. And the last one, update. So Emily, I think this is the PR you just asked us to review, right? So we already went through that. That's the end of the queue. Awesome, yeah, we made it right on time, yeah. Well, thanks everybody, and happy holidays. I guess we'll see you, each of you, on January, the first week of January on the Tuesday. Thank you so much. Bye.
Later on.